All right, Liz, say hello.
Hello.
We're on. Hey. How you doing?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Always good to see you.
All right, you ready? I'm going to do my quick intro,
Yep.
and then we got the questions for
Sounds
you.
great.
All right, hello everybody. My name's Alex Vidal. I am the regional vice president for Coldwell Banker here in Dallas, Fort Worth. We are filming live the 119th episode of the Closer Club.
Wow.
Her first ever on a live.
Yes.
Trying something new. And today we are sitting with the best buyer's agent I have ever met in my life, Liz Woodrow, or Elizabeth formerly, of our South Lake office in Coldwell Banker. And we're actually filming Fireside Chat from my home. And the reason I know that Liz is the best buyer's agent is because she had to deal with me
Please.
as a buyer.
No.
And she is my buyer's agent, and how I ended up in this wonderful and beautiful home in South Lake, Texas. And Liz, thank you so much, formally on camera.
Well, thank you. I absolutely was blessed to have this wonderful family.
Blessed, I don't know about that, maybe cursed, but
No, so lucky, so lucky.
All right,
Yeah.
so there's one thing I can never talk about, and that's buyers. Because quite frankly, I would rather get my wisdom teeth pulled than work with buyers. But she's the same way, but the other way with
Yes,
sellers.
That's true.
So I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to get Liz do all the talking. But in honor of Veterans Day, I do have my Stars and Stripes socks for our veterans. Thank you so much for everything that you do for us. All right, Liz, you ready?
Yes.
All right, so before we get into our 6 questions regarding buyers, tell us a little bit of how you even ended up in real estate.
Well, I was so fortunate about 20-some years ago. A friend introduced me to a wonderful woman named Debbie Dunn.
That's right.
And she had years of experience, and she was patient with me, and she taught me everything that I know today. And she and I eventually formed a team, and we were the Dunn Woodrow team.
Okay.
And
now, you started off as her assistant, though, right?
I was. I started off as her
I'm going to lower this fire. This is the beauty of Texas fires.
Yes.
You lower it just a little because it's hot.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is hot.
So you started off as her assistant, right?
I did. I started off as her assistant, and quickly Debbie encouraged me to get my license. And she said, you're doing a lot of this work. You should really, get your license. I think you would really enjoy this. And she was right, as she always is.
Yeah.
And I started off as her buyer's agent after I got licensed, and then we became a team.
Okay.
And then we worked that way for 8 years or so, 10 years, something like that. And she then sadly moved away to another part of the state. And so I was left on my own.
Okay.
But what I had discovered during that time working with Debbie was that I have an absolute passion for working with buyers.
Don't ask me why. She does.
But, the reason why is because my husband and I, before I got into real estate, we moved across the country 5 times with our kids. And I'll never forget, it's memories that are seared in my head about the stress of moving across the country. There's a lot of stress in researching school districts and neighborhoods, and you just want someone to help you know you're making a good decision.
Sure.
So that's why I think I was so drawn to buyers. I feel a real kinship, and it's important to me that that's how I structured my business, so that I can serve them and make the transition as smooth a transition as possible.
And she did that for us, and she's got the patience of a saint, I swear.
No, that's
not
true.
So you talking to a buyer the very first time,
Yep.
right? What are some of your go-to questions that you have for every buyer?
Well, I think we all have our own kind of a buyer questionnaire, and I would really recommend if you haven't taken buyer strategies through Coldwell Banker, it's a great class, and they have lots and lots of information, but a lot of it was what I had already incorporated a lot in my questions. I think it's very important that first time, though, is to develop a rapport with people and to listen more than you speak. But that being said, there are some things you have to get. You have to get from that conversation. The first one, I think, is their motivation. Why are they moving?
Sure.
And I think also, where they're from. You told me a lot about the house that you lived in Florida, and from that I can garner a lot of information without just saying, okay, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and kind of just have a nice flow of the conversation. And For example, with you, I learned you had a fantastic backyard in Florida.
Yes.
And that was going to be something that was important here. So, also, when they tell you a little bit about the things that they love about their house, so always ask about what they love about
Sure.
their house. Hey, it's a good time to say, I'd love to see a picture of it. Is your house listed? Instead of saying, can I get a referral?
Got it.
Right? It's in the back of your head that yes, this might be a great opportunity for an outgoing referral, but is your house listed? I'd love to see your photos. So just kind of an easy conversation.
You did do that to us, by the way. You did ask me if my house was listed, and we did send you the photos.
Yes.
Huh.
But if you do it in such a way that it doesn't seem overbearing, I think it's really important to get into specifics about the kids and all the things that they're interested in.
That's right.
I like to always ask people if they're going to be purchasing this home with cash, or if possibly they would be financing portion of it.
Yep.
The other thing I think that's really important is to respect the research they've already done. You all had done, just like most buyers have done, tons of research. So I think it's real important to respect the research that they've done, listen to what they have, and then maybe also, may I look into more research for you? May I send you some additional things?
Got it.
Something kind of flowing with what they want. If they want to, if they're a little bit off, you might be able to send them some information that helps them ultimately steer them, narrow them into a productive.
So you're not blitzkrieging them with questions. You're using conversation to
Just
gather,
conversation.
to layer in the questions in a way that you can get what you want.
Correct. But then, of course, you always have to ask them, how would you like me to follow up?
Sure.
Is email best for you? Is text best for you? Or, may I start sending you listings?
Sure.
And if they send you some that they've already found, you can narrow it down so that you really have a very good idea before they get here of what they're looking for.
Sure. I love the question, and I understand the reason behind asking to send photos of the home as a way to find out if it's listed, but it's a great way to get an idea. Like, that's how you understood the yard that we came from, or the look that we were looking for in our home.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So talk to me, do you ever tell a buyer no?
Yes. Now, I wasn't great at it when I first started off.
Okay.
And Debbie was, again, as she always is, critical in educating me and helping me understand there is a time in which you need to say no.
Okay. So what are those circumstances?
Well, the one, and happened today, I may not be the best agent for them depending on what their needs are.
Okay.
And I think that if we are going to look at the bigger picture, the longer term, with our relationship, let's say with Cardis or different relocation companies, it's helpful to say, as much as I would love to work with them, I don't think I'd be the best agent. So there are times when it's, I think, helpful and helps our reputation and helps us to be professionals that we understand what our specialties are.
Okay. So what was it about the buyer today that you said no?
It wasn't my market area. And I know not everyone looks at it that way, but I am not a specialist in all areas.
Sure.
For example, if someone called me and said, I'd love to see houses in Mesquite. Well, I know that there are some fantastic Mesquite agents with Coldwell Banker in Mesquite that have done this for years, that really know the area, that can provide a really high level of service. So I would recommend that. As much
Keith
as
Yannick, by the way, in our Park Cities office is great.
Right.
In Mesquite,
So I was going to say, there are times when it's hard to say no sometimes, but it's also good for us in the long run and for our professionalism.
Got it. Okay. So one of the things you did provide us was an amazing buyer package. Okay. And with the amount of transferees that we're experiencing, not only, and we have a large Florida audience, so here, but you're also experiencing it in Florida as well. So you figure out what we want as a family, what we're looking for in a home. You're getting pictures of our home, our motivation, our time frame, etc. But then you give us a buyer package. Mm-hmm. What's in that buyer package?
Well, before I get the buyer package, I have to have a buyer's rep agreement.
Okay, so let's skip to that.
Should we do that first?
Yes.
Okay.
How do you get buyers to sign your buyer brokerage agreement?
Well, since I am exclusively and have been for 20 years a buyer's representative, I have to have a buyer's rep agreement. I don't unlock houses for listing agents. That's just not what I do. That's not my area of expertise. It's not what I want to do. It's not my business model. So therefore, I have to serve my customers, my clients, the best that I possibly can. I have to have a buyer's rep agreement. And if I explain it to them that way, it usually makes them understand. It's not really a negotiable. If there are objections, sometimes we'll do a short-term one until we all get to know each other, make sure that they like me, I like them, and then we can always extend it and we can alter it. There's a form for that to modify your buyer's rep agreement. So to me, it's just a non-negotiable. I need to protect what I do for a living, and that's how I do
So
that.
how do you show them value prior to getting them to, because you can't just say, hey, I met you, here it is, I don't unlock homes for listing agents. So kind of walk me through that. What's kind of like that, how are you showing them value to the point that you then present the buyer brokerage agreement?
Right, I think sometimes...
And I'm going to lower this just a notch more. It's cooking.
It's cooking. It's lovely.
Because we have gas and real wood.
Yes.
So it's both.
Hearth and home.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think sometimes you have to give them examples of what you've done in the past for people, pointing out to them the research that we do. I try to explain to them how detailed I am and that there are a lot of steps in this process. And it's my job is to make sure that none of the steps are missed or are not executed well. But sometimes you can explain to them things such as, because I have worked in this area forever, for example, Southlake.
Yep.
I explained to you that there is a noise cone from the DFW airport.
That's right.
That's something of value that I can tell you that you may not have known, as well as researching floodplains or different things like that that have helped clients make the best, most informed decision for them. So and it doesn't have to be a long-term relationship. I can sign a buyer's rep agreement for a day.
Sure.
Just for a day until they understand. I think the biggest objection I get is usually the commitment.
Got it.
Because I don't know you yet.
Correct.
But if you limit that commitment that first day, it's not a lifelong marriage.
What do you typically go for? Like how many days, like right off the bat, how many days do you build into your buyer brokerage agreement?
I almost always do 3 months.
Okay, so you go for 90 days, but if push came to shove and you needed to, I'll show you my value, do a day.
That's right.
And ways in which you're showing your value is
During
by showing
that
them
day.
the nuances of what a particular city has. Southlake has floodplains, you have the airport nearby, which
Correct.
makes it so attractive, et cetera, the school system.
Right.
Okay, so now they've executed the buyer brokerage agreement, be it for a day or 90 days. You give them the buyer package.
And the buyer package, the reason I don't give them the full court press is that's part of my value until they sign that buyer rep agreement. But once they do, I've put in quite a bit of work in the buyer packet. And a lot of it is based upon that questionnaire. I start with the Moxie template, which is so helpful. Now some of it, I think you have to customize it to every buyer.
Moxie is the buyer for those that are not with Coldwell Banker.
Oh, right.
That is the buyer presentation within Coldwell Banker.
Correct, and it's a great template to start with, and then you can add in, your buyer profile. So, your agent profile, things that tailor it to them. I think many times you have to be very specific on areas. You add a whole bunch of additional information on the things that they're looking for.
Yep.
Like, let's say their kids have specific activities. Well, that's a great time. Hey, here's a whole bunch of soccer clubs that are close by, and here's when they're meeting and all of that stuff, so that people feel like you understand that it's not just simply a transaction, it's a move of a family.
That's right. And one of the cool things that she did, and it's a photo that we have, and it made us emotional, was Southlake is known as the Carroll Dragon. So whether you're in kindergarten through high school, and there's a bunch of different schools, it could be Eubanks or Dawson, they're all dragons, and they're the Carroll Dragons. And so for us to feel as a part of the community, as we were leaving, she actually bought our kids Carroll Dragon shirts to already start to feel a sense of the community in our move here, which was really cool.
Because it wasn't just you and Priscilla moving here. Your kids, I wanted them to feel part of the process too. And as parents, if our kids are happy, that makes the transition so much easier.
That's right. And Kyle told Priscilla the other day that he has never been happier.
Aww.
He loves his school, loves the sports. Like, he's loving Southlake.
And that is 100%, I think, the reason why I like being a buyer's agent.
Yeah, that's right. And we're equally as happy as well, but for the kids to be that happy, for sure. Okay. So you stopped me from looking at every single property available for sale in Southlake.
Yes.
How do you stop a buyer from wanting to do that? How do you, because I mean, you could potentially show buyer 50 properties, right?
Absolutely. And I wish, in our market, the way we've had it for the last 5 years or so, I wish I had that much inventory to usually show in Southlake. Inventory's been pretty low. We've had definitely a seller's market. So I wish I had that problem. But when I did have that problem, what I try to do is always tailor it back to when we talked originally. You had said you would like to have X, not X, Y. You didn't want Y, you wanted X. And if you sometimes just bring the conversation back around to what their goals are, and so it's easy to get off on tangents and kind of hone it back in. Many times they're like, yeah, I'm not going to like that house.
Now, okay, so this is very important because of the questions that she does up front in that conversation.
That's right.
You're getting so much information out of that buyer that when they want to look at something, rather than you telling them no, you're taking what they told you and putting it back on them, and they're essentially making the decision for themselves.
Correct. That's right. They don't realize that you're narrowing it for them. They're narrowing it for themselves.
You know, it's interesting. One of our agents today in coaching, so we do the Closer Club coaching. We've written, I think it's almost 290 contracts in 5 weeks.
Awesome.
60 agents.
Awesome.
And Gina Mack said that she had shown this buyer properties. She knew they were going to like this property. She knew it was going to sell fast, so she just went ahead and pre-wrote the contract.
Absolutely.
And took it with her already written.
Because she knew. She had developed that rapport. She had gotten to know her client enough.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great.
Kudos to Gina on that. Okay. I think one of the biggest things, and we're in Southlake, higher price points, right?
Right.
How do you ask somebody for proof of funds?
Well, if you do it up front again, in that buyer questionnaire, if you pose it to them, you know, are you going to pay cash or are you going to finance it? Can I help you with that? For us to hit the ground running and to make the strongest offer we can, to be fully prepared, let's go ahead and get that taken care of up front, so that you have that already in your back pocket when you're going out to look at houses. You know what is reasonable and what is something that works for them and that they're comfortable with. So for me, it's real easy to, you take care of that. I'll get us ready for all the houses and all the home tours. If you all want to get your pre-approval done, we'll be ready to hit the ground running.
Awesome. That's cool. It's like a partnership.
It's a partnership.
I'm having flashbacks because she literally did all this with us. It's crazy. Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
So you're in Southlake.
Yes.
Very, very, very competitive market.
Yes.
How do you win out on multiple offer situations?
Well, I think,
is there a trick?
I think there are tricks.
Okay.
I think there are tricks. I think probably the first thing would be to develop a rapport with the listing agent. If there are multiple offers on the table, talking with the listing agent and having some of those conversations, I'm never afraid to ask questions that they may not want to even answer. But if I don't ask,
the answer is always no.
Answer is always no. So you say, is the other offer cash? Sometimes they don't want to tell me that, but sometimes they'll say, no, it's financing as well. Okay. Or if they say it's cash, ooh, okay, my client, we have to look at what we're going to do. We have to pepper it a little bit better. Talk to the listing agent. What is the seller looking for? It's not always necessarily a dollar sign. Maybe it's a closing date.
That's right.
My client can close faster, or my client can delay a little bit. You know, maybe if we're worried about appraisal, we pay some of the customary seller costs. Tighten up the contract, all your days. Instead of saying maybe 5 days for objection, you tighten that up to 3 days for objection. Things that might, if it's put side by side, all the offers, gives you just a tick up. And maybe it, even with relocation packages, maybe the relocation company is willing to pay for some of that, so that it's no sweat off of my buyers. You know, make sure you use all your benefits, all those things. So
got it. So building the rapport and asking passive questions like, if you know that yours is finance, don't ask if theirs is finance. Just say, hey, is it cash?
Yeah. And sometimes they're like, oh, I don't want to say that. Many times, 9 times out of 10, they're like, no, I don't have a cash offer.
Right. And by the way, that's because nobody takes the time to actually process the question. They just go ahead and ask it.
And if it's a new listing agent, maybe I'll have to educate them, like, my client's actually paying some title fees or things, willing to pay that, so therefore they're actually getting a higher price.
Correct.
And it doesn't have to appraise. All of a sudden, ding, ding, to the newer listing agent, oh, they're helping us. They're helping us get this from the beginning to the end. A better chance.
And for the Florida people, Dade and Broward County, the buyers pay for the title insurance premium. Here it's the sellers. So if a buyer picks up that tab, it doesn't need to appraise. That's just a seller closing cost that you're picking up.
Correct.
Awesome.
So,
And I love the fact of, I think agents automatically assume that the seller wants the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time.
that's right.
Actually, I think here, didn't they ask for an extended closing?
They asked for an extended closing.
That's right.
So if you can get a little bit more to maybe put you just a hair above everyone else by getting some of that extra information, goes a long way.
Yeah, and we were in a multiple offer situation.
We were.
All right, Liz, we're done. You did it. You crushed it. Thank you
You're
so much.
kind.
It was warmer
He's
than I
the
thought.
best.
No, I don't know if I'm the best. You're the best buyer's agent for sure. All right, any
thanks.
parting words before we say goodbye?
No, thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it.
There you go.